In some ways their world is turned upside down, and you get a chance to sort of help them. They've got an insurance company on one end that's trying to take advantage of them, and that's one thing I really didn't appreciate was the way that insurance companies treat people.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Two Thumbs Up podcast. Dr. Todd here today. I got my good buddy Adam Larson here as well. Larson Injury Law. We're going to chat a little bit about what they do, but most of them are just going to have a fun conversation.
Sure.
We're going to see where we go. I mean, like we were just talking about, with these podcasts, I really truly don't have an agenda. Of course, we want to touch on some of the expertise you have, but I love just seeing where a conversation goes and what happens. But so tell us a little bit about you, Adam. You grew up? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Salt Lake City, Utah, little town up the road from here.
The little town of Draper?
Yeah, no. I grew up in the Avenues downtown.
Oh, you did?
Okay. Yeah, I grew up in the Avenues downtown. Lived there for.
Did you go to East High?
I went to West High.
West High.
Yeah, okay. Careful.
Oh, sorry. Those are fighting words. We're just starting.
I went to West High and had a great experience there, and went to college in here for a little bit, and when moved to California, went to college there for law school, and wound up back here. And
yeah. So where did you end up in California? Where's your part?
So we lived in Rancho Cucamonga, which is 40 miles or so inland from Los Angeles. And, it was a fun 3 years, and when 3 years was up, I was ready to come home. Yeah, it's a great place to visit and different to live there.
You have kiddos?
I do. I've got 3 kids.
Yeah, very cool.
Oldest is 22, and it's a girl, and my youngest is 11. That's a boy, and there's another boy in there somewhere.
So a few minutes ago, we were kind of recollecting that we were talking about my folks, and you may remember them. You may have been an early teen back then. I mean, or maybe even mid-teen. But it was, you knew them when your folks lived in Draper, I believe. Yep. And we talked about Bruce and Ann and all those guys. But I've known your dad when I first got in practice through my parents. And what's interesting about this is now we kind of putting all these pieces together, and we haven't had much opportunity to chat historically, but I love that we have that connection that way. So.
Well, and I work with my dad, and before I mentioned to him I was coming down here for this thing today, and he's like, "Oh yeah, say hi to Todd, and talk to him about Bruce and Ann." And stuff like that. So,
good people.
Yeah, good folks.
And it's interesting that how I'll just share the story where and I shared this with you earlier, but so when I first got in practice. Literally my first 2 settlement checks I ever got from some injury cases that I treated was Bruce brought him by. And he showed up on his motorcycle, and he was in the front office, and he hugged. It's like we had this interaction where he hugged me, and I was so grateful for it because that was the first time in my life. And granted, the checks were not huge checks. They were just, $1,500, but it's the first time in my life that I ever had received that much money at one moment. And I called Melanie, and I'm like, "Babe, we can make this work." We're living in my in-laws' basement at the time. I had 2 little boys. Yeah. I mean, I used to, and you know how it is, man. It's like, I used to go down, and I don't want to tell you this story because I used to go down to the Kmart on Saturdays and Friday evenings and do spinal screenings in the lobby of the Kmart in South Provo because the manager there, I think, felt sorry for me. And I needed to get my name out there somewhat. And I would drive home from there back to my little apartment in the basement with my 2 little boys and my wife and just be like either sad some days like, wait, why am I still doing this? Or grateful that I had a type of interaction. And I'm like, oh, maybe they'll see my value, and come see me, as a patient. Yeah. But, Bruce and your dad in the very beginning of my career, as a matter of fact, it may have been the first law office that I ever interacted with. So I'm grateful for them is my point.
Well, me too. I work with my dad, have done so. I've been practicing for 14 years and worked for him before that. I worked for him right out of high school, and I worked for him while I was in college and stuff like that. And learned a lot from Bruce as well. Yeah. So the 2 of them being able to have as mentors over the years and things, and it's been really valuable.
So you growing up, your dad's a personal injury attorney, and because my dad grew up in the auto body and fender world. I grew up in Eugene, Oregon.
Yeah.
My brothers stayed in that profession. They sold the business a number of years ago. My dad's passed, but I was like, I don't want to do that. I want to go do my own thing. And so what was did you ever have that, like, I don't want to do what my dad does? Or did you or were you like my brothers and they're like, nope, I'm doing that with dad? What was your thought
my whole
process?
time growing up was that I don't want to do what dad does. It was, I didn't have a strong opinion about it, but I think growing up I didn't understand that much about what he did. I knew he was a lawyer. I knew he did like car accidents or something like that. And, and that's about as much as I knew for most of the time. And, graduated from high school, and I had a year. I was going to go on a mission, and I had a year, and he was like, "Well, just come work for me for a bit, and we'll pass your year that way." And so I did, and I started working for him, and really started to see what it looks like to run a personal injury case, to help somebody from the time they get in the car crash until the end of it, whether that's in a trial or a settlement or something like that. Seeing that, I thought was, it really kind of appealed to me, and I thought it was really interesting. And so I go on a mission. I'm thinking about it for a couple of years. I come back and started working for him again. And it was sometime around then that I thought, I could really do this. This is something that, you get a lot of benefit from, not just in the sense of being able to put bread on the table for your family, but being able to help people. You get the extrinsic reward as well.
Sure.
You're in a helping profession where you're helping somebody that is in a bad situation. They've been in a car crash, or some other injury has happened to them. In some ways their world is turned upside down, and you get a chance to sort of help them. They've got an insurance company on one end that's trying to take advantage of them, and that's one thing I really didn't appreciate, was the way that insurance companies treat people.
Yeah.
Until I got into it and heard some of the stories and saw how they were treating people. So it was, that kind of ignited the fighter in me. It was like, being able to fight them feels good.
Yeah. And honestly, in the population, and as a general rule, how many, knock on wood, right? Yeah. How many accidents is someone in a given lifetime? Ideally none, but maybe one, maybe two, maybe one significant one, again, knock on wood, right? But it's like, when that happens, for the general population, they don't have a clue on the mechanisms and the pitfalls and the what ifs of what just happened to them, right? Their car's damaged, and they the next day they wake up and they have all these pains, right? And they're like, well, now what do I do? And to be able to go into a place and have a level of trust that you build with them, and I think there's such value there. And it's one of the things we really instill in our practitioners, is building trust with these patients. And so talk to us a little bit about that mechanism, right? They get hit in an intersection, they're in that very millisecond, their life sort of gets turned upside down some, to lesser degrees and to greater degrees. We've seen the major traumatics of it all, right? And then we've seen I got a neck issue, or we've seen all of the varying range of those types of injuries. Yeah. Talk to us a little bit about what you see with the mechanisms of the need for a person, because in people's hearts, I don't feel like they want to sue anybody, right? We're not litigious people. Yeah. But because of the pitfalls, can you share with us your experience when it comes to a person really needing a quality, caring personal injury attorney?
Yeah, most of the time somebody comes in, and it's very rare that they come in and say, I'm going to get these guys. Right. I was in this crash, and I wasn't in the wrong. They were in the wrong. I want to get these guys. Or, come in with any sort of vengeance or anything like that on their mind. Almost everybody, even regardless of all the differences that people have, most of the people that call us are just saying, hey, I just want to be treated fairly. This happened to me. I wasn't at fault. I don't want to be stuck with some medical bills, or I don't want to be stuck, missing all this time from work and being out that money. Those types of things are really what's primarily on most people's mind. Now, everybody's different. You get some people that are more one way, or some people that are more another way. There are some people that it's hard to get them to come in. Their doc is like, hey, you need a lawyer to help you with this, because you're going to be taken advantage of if you're not, or if you don't have an attorney. And some people are tough to get in the door because they don't want to be one of those people. They don't want to, sue somebody. They don't want to get caught up in.
Is the right, we use the word sue, and that's a scary word.
Yeah.
But really, what is it? I mean, if you were to take that word out of the mix to give people a little, oh, that's really what it is.
Yeah.
To me, words matter. Mm-hmm. And so when I hear certain words, there's scary words, and then there's peaceful words.
Yeah.
Like, if you were to share this, and maybe you do this with your clients, because you do a great job of putting their mind at ease. Mm-hmm. So what are some of the things you share with them about this?
Well, yeah, you're right. So the idea of getting into a lawsuit or suing somebody or even hiring a lawyer, that can be really intimidating to a lot of people. Or if not intimidating, just distasteful, mm-hmm. And the reality of it is most of the time, a lawsuit isn't even necessary. Sometimes it is.
Correct. Yes.
And for me, I enjoy that. I love going to court. I love the fight of it all. So I'm ready and willing to do that whenever it's necessary. But I also appreciate the fact that not everybody wants to rush into something like that. And mm-hmm. If there's a pathway to a peaceful resolution, that's what most people want.
And so what you're really talking about is a negotiation.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually something I'm going to share with my practitioners when they're actually talking to people about it may be wise for them to get some representation. Mm-hmm. Because I think we use that word. I'm just thinking of this right now. I think my practitioners may use that word. Mm-hmm. It's like let's not use that word. Let's say, hey, you really could use some representation, or hey, they're going to work with you to get a grade out, whatever the wording is. Because I think people, we don't want to, that's human nature. It's like we don't want to get taken advantage of. Tell us about that, though. You said a few minutes ago. It's like you don't want people to get taken advantage of. And insurance companies are what they are, right? And I'm not going to throw them all under the bus at this moment, but the individual is up against a system, yes?
Yeah.
And what's been your experience with that system?
Yeah, well, it's an adversarial system by nature. Insurance companies, they're right. I'm not trying to disparage anybody or any insurance company even, but
because they're looking out for their best interests.
It's a business.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And to them, they have their advertising phrases that are, they're like a good neighbor or you're in good hands or whatever their advertising phrase is. And the truth is, it's not really necessarily that. You're a person, but more importantly, you're a number. And they're looking out for their bottom line. They want you to be the smallest number possible.
Right.
Which is what their job is.
Exactly.
Their job is to make as much money as they can. And that is what it is. But when you're on the other end of that, you really need somebody to look out for your interests. You're the average person that was just in the wrong place at the wrong time and wound up in a car crash or something like that. You need somebody to look out for your interests because you've got a multi-billion-dollar machine on the other side that's trying to steamroll you.
Yeah. You bring up this point. I don't, and I've talked to a number of people in my career about this. There's a mechanism outside the traditional healthcare model, for example, like, someone goes to the doctor and they have Blue Cross insurance or they have Aetna or they got Cigna or they got Select Health. Mm-hmm. And that's not going to cover you. And most of the time it's not going to cover if they've been in a motor vehicle accident, right. It's not going to cover their care. Right. And then, in the state of Utah, for example, there's the personal injury protection, the PIP on their auto insurance. And a lot of people don't understand that mechanism. But can you talk to us a little bit about that mechanism?
Sure.
How is what you do for them uniquely different than their traditional health insurance?
Yeah. So it's interesting that you bring that up. I was thinking a lot about this just driving down here today. And Utah is what we call a no-fault insurance state. And what that means, that is when you're in a car crash and you have a Utah auto insurance policy, regardless of who's at fault for the crash, you go to your own auto insurance for at least the first $3,000. If you've got a Utah policy, you have at least $3,000. Some people have more. Mm-hmm. There are different carriers out there that'll sell, 5,000, 10,000, even 100,000. But everybody's got at least $3,000. And that kicks in and pays at least the first $3,000 of your bills, whether or not you're at fault. And the funny thing is that informs the care and treatment that you get with a lot of providers. a lot of the time you go into, if you're in a crash, you go into the emergency department and you get a lot of care. And this is not to discourage anybody from going to the emergency department, because if you're in a crash and you're injured, you should go get checked out.
Please go get checked out. Yes.
But sometimes these business decisions get in the way of the medical decisions that are being made as well. You walk in the door and they may see a person, but they may also see $3,000 walking in the door or more. And that kind of informs the care that people are getting a lot of the time. And it's not just emergency rooms. There's other doctors. There's well-meaning chiropractors or other types of doctors, physical therapists or whoever it is that you go to. Sometimes, if you're not careful with who you choose, they're looking at the money rather than looking at what's in your best interest. And that, because of the nature of the law, I think the no-fault law is a good law, but because of the nature of that kind of has put a lot of influence on the care and treatment that people are getting. There are models out there. Well, and I should go back and talk about health insurance. When you have health insurance, they don't kick in and pay anything until that personal injury protection is gone.
And then what happens?
And then they'll pay what they pay. And you're left with the rest of it if you're the injured person, Right. And sometimes a lot of people will have like a high deductible HSA plan or something like that, where, they're not, the health insurance doesn't pay anything until they reach their deductible, which might be $5,000.
Because how quickly though, if a patient gets injured, in a car accident, and they do take an ambulance ride to the emergency department, how quickly is that $3,000 gone?
It's every time.
It's gone within probably 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And so in order to access those extra funds you're talking about, for them to actually to get the care they deserve, that's where you kick in.
Yeah. Once you reach, in Utah, what we call it the threshold. Once you reach the $3,000 threshold, or there's other instances that luckily don't happen to most people: death, dismemberment, disability, disfigurement, a broken bone.
The D's of it all, right?
Yeah.
What were those?
Death, dismemberment, disability, disfigurement, and they also threw on broken bone, which, so most people don't get those in crashes. Some people do, and that's awful when it happens.
We need you when you added that one.
What?
Neurologic.
Yeah.
Concussion.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, that's honestly, we're concussion pros.
Yeah.
I feel like musculoskeletal, we know that, right? Those things happen. I always say, let's start looking neuro first.
Yeah.
Because if we look neuro first, and of course I'm going to get my little tangent here real quick, but if we look neuro first, there's a high likelihood all the musculoskeletal is there, but we're also going to get that covered. We've been doing this from our standpoint a long time, and there's a lot of musculoskeletal injuries with comes to these things. But and there's a lot of practitioners who do a great job with that stuff, and a lot of attorneys, that space very, very well.
Sure.
I just feel like there's this other space, the neurological injury space, that it's kind of subtle. Sometimes it's really big, like we know it, but then there's this underlying subtleness of it.
Yeah.
And tell us kind of your experience with that as well.
Yeah, well, it's interesting you bring that up, because concussion injuries or MTBIs, head injuries, are oftentimes overlooked in the crash. And I think for various reasons. One is that business model of healthcare that we were talking about a minute ago. You walk into the emergency department, and they want to give you X-rays, they want to give you CT scans and stuff of your neck and of your back, and the most common,
which is super important.
You bet,
100%, right? You bet.
By all means, go get checked out if you're hurt.
Yeah.
But you get past that, and then it's how does this get paid for? And the short, quick answer is there are ways, and we can talk about that if we want. But
we do want.
But they're not necessarily looking for the head injury. Why? Because the easy money is with the CT scanner. The easy money is with the other things. That's not a CT scan of the head, by the way. They're looking at neck, they're looking at back, and maybe it's the training or whatever it is. Some of the smaller practitioners, whether it's a chiropractor, physical therapist, they're looking to, some of them. There's some really great ones out there, but there are also others that they're looking more to grab that money. They're looking to grab
and treat what's in their wheelhouse.
And treat what's in their wheelhouse.
It's musculoskeletal.
They're not trained, or they're not expert enough in concussion care. And I'm seeing that changing. Yeah. I'm seeing information is getting out there, and this isn't a commercial for concussion pros or whatever, but what you guys are doing you've kind of been on the forefront of that, and
Mm-hmm.
you got our attention several years ago when this really started getting going. Um,
Thank you.
but
And it's because of these wonderful people that are actually behind the camera,
yeah,
our marketing staff. But
yeah.
yeah,
But really, the word is getting out there. More are getting education. More are getting trained on. More of these healthcare providers are getting trained on what to look for concussions and head injuries and stuff like that. Um, and I think that another thing too is when someone has a concussion or when someone has a head injury or a neurological condition, they may not completely know what's going on with them at first. You know, I've in my lifetime, I can only think of one time when I've had I know I had a concussion.
yeah,
That was when I was in high school. I played soccer in high school, and long story short, I got kicked in the head, as happens to soccer players sometimes. And it was the strangest experience for me at that time because when that happened, I went down, I got hurt, I got back up, and I thought I was fine, and then the game goes on. I was a goalkeeper, so I was just down on my end of the field, and the game gets going on, and I started thinking, I'm a little bit dizzy,
yeah.
and I was a little bit fuzzy, but wasn't really able to put it together. I have a head injury right now,
And back then, what was the response?
Oh, you just got your bell rung. You get up and keep
Yeah,
playing.
yeah, and you're young, you're healthy, and oftentimes though those self-resolve, but there was really probably I'm assuming there was really no evaluation of any.
Not really. In that instance, I knew that something was wrong, and eventually I got off the field. But it was weird. I was saying to my coach, I need to come out. And they're like, well, just go down, and they'll stop the game and they'll get you out of there and stuff. And I went off the field and had a quick visit with the trainer, and then I don't remember anything from the time I started talking to the trainer until about 45 minutes later. I was sitting on the team bus all by myself, and I didn't understand why I was sitting on the bus by myself. But beyond that, the trainer took a look at us, took a look at me, and then it was just kind of like, well, okay, just let me know if there's still problems.
Right.
And I didn't really get any follow-up care or anything like that. I just powered through it for the next couple of weeks. Had issues. And back then, that's what it was. It was lack of information, lack of knowledge.
And you're an athlete. You're young at the time, and then I correlate that to a person that's going through an intersection over here, for example, and they're 70 years old or 65 years old, and age does matter,
Yeah.
but yet they don't have the muscle mass of a 16-year-old kid, or they don't have and they get hit from the side. And they didn't see it coming, and then torsional rotation of the brain, torsional rotation of the neck.
Yeah.
There's all this stuff, and I feel like it's so important that as legal representatives, as healthcare practitioners that really love and care about these people, that we really start thinking about neuro, and stop. And we see it a lot in professional sports. But what about the mom who just gets hit in the intersection? Because these professional guys. And we've worked with a number of NCAA athletes, and their concussion programs are better, but they're still lacking. We put them in this concussion program, and it's improving. But for the individual, the normal citizen that gets in an accident, they don't have those resources, right? And so I feel like, with your expertise and what you guys do and seeing the broad picture, can you share with us a little bit about the mechanisms in which people are able to get their health care coverage, their healthcare costs covered?
Yeah. So obviously the best way to go about it is get an attorney involved that knows what they're doing, and they can help. Help. I'm not a doctor, so I don't guide or direct the healthcare, but I sort of know how the system works, and it's like, okay, this person has health insurance, this person doesn't have health insurance. I kind of know what their options are going to be.
Right.
And I get in touch with the healthcare providers that the person is seeing, and I say, okay, this is what we're dealing with here. This is what the case looks like, because they have to make business decisions about how they handle
So you can share. Okay, here's the costs. Here's the money. So those are all things that are mysteries to the general population. How to even access those, right?
Yeah. And essentially for a lot of people, and even with your health insurance, they send you a scary letter when you've been injured in a car crash, or there's another possible insurance policy. They send you a letter that says, okay, you need to tell us all about all your injuries, then we get reimbursed for anything we paid for. Or if you don't have health insurance, it's just like, I don't have any money, I can't go get health care.
Right.
And
How often does that's where I get passionate.
Yeah.
How often does that happen?
Pretty frequently.
All the time.
Pretty frequently, yeah.
Not just as in PI, personal injury, but I see it in work comp.
Yep.
Workman's compensation. It's like, well, their injuries get discounted because somebody doesn't want to pay for it. So then they got to go back to the job site, or they got to go, in a motor vehicle, they got to go back to work. Oh my God. And they're like, well, they're saying I'm not hurt. Yeah. Well, are you saying you're hurt? Yeah, everything hurts. I'm like, well, who's right and who's wrong here, right? Like, you're injured. Right. But yet it's all, that's why you guys are so important is my point. Yeah. It's like, you got to go to bat for people.
Yeah. Well, and we help people make claims on the insurance company of the person that caused the issue, caused the harm, caused the incident. And there's also, an increasing number of healthcare providers out there that are understanding how the game is played or what the mechanisms are for getting paid. And they'll provide care on a lien basis, which means that they provide the care and then they just agree to get paid out of the proceeds of the case down the road.
So a medical lien. So kind of break that down so people get it in layman's terms. So it's because I know what it means. We know, but when I say that word to even others, they're like, they don't get it. So what does that really mean?
In the simplest terms, it's an agreement. It's a legal agreement. There's a paper that everybody signs, and it says, I'm hurt in the crash. I don't have the money to pay this right now, or whether you do or don't. It's an agreement between the injured person, the doctor, and the attorney that when the case resolves, that the proceeds of the case, enough proceeds from the case will go to the healthcare provider to pay off the bills.
And the other good part about this, I think, is you do an excellent job of negotiating with the medical provider when the case is, say, hey guys, this is what the medical cost is. This is how much we've got. You do negotiating with in their behalf, also not just with the insurance company, but also negotiating with the providers. So it's a win-win-win.
Yeah.
That's the best outcome for a lot of this. And so, working with a law group, I feel like that's because in every, and I don't want to disparage anybody, but there's people that run high volume of these types of this type of work. Yeah. Just like in medicine, there's places that run high volumes of things. I'm not saying that's necessarily a negative thing, but if to have someone that has these type of injuries and that really needs sort of a the white glove approach to managing this case, that's what you guys do.
Yeah. But yeah, we're not, I mean, there's different business models, right?
Sure.
It's a business model, and you've got the stack them deep and sell them cheap type of business model, and you've got other business models. We're not a heavy advertising firm, but it is all we do. Yeah. Personal injury cases is all we do. More often, we hear complaints from, we get clients who have hired, some of these big advertisers that, they have a caseload that's through the roof. They have a monthly marketing budget that's through the roof, and they're just trying to get cases processed, get them processed. And for us, we have a lower volume. We have more time and bandwidth, frankly, to spend and attention to give to people. I'll never forget in the early days, I had a client who had fired one of the big firms, one of the big advertisers, and came and hired us. And we worked the case and whatever, and the other attorney had done some work on the case, and so he was owed some money, and so I was taking him a check for his portion of the funds, and the client told me it was okay to talk to this guy and share information, and basically he said, well, how much did the case go for? And I told him. He was like, how did you get that much for that case? And that kind of turned on a light for me. It was like, well, it's not rocket science. We paid more attention to it, and we fought a little bit harder than they would have. And
details matter in these things.
It does.
I mean, it's everything from the details you guys do to the details that the doctors do that are managing this case. It all exponentially makes a difference in the outcome. Has that been your experience?
Definitely. A team approach where the doctor knows what they're doing. They know how to treat, get the person better, and also document properly for a personal injury case. And then attorneys that know what they're doing, because there's a lot of attorneys that, and I'm not disparaging anybody, but there's a lot of attorneys that'll dabble. Mm-hmm. Do a little of this, a little of that.
Yeah, you got your family law guys, and you got your defense guys, you got your corporate guys. Yeah. I would always suggest people find practitioners that really know this world, because that matters, and also meaning the personal injury world, and also attorneys that are specifically professionally know this world as well, because that matters in the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. I and this happens all the time, but I had somebody come in last week who her doctor's office was saying, no, you got to go see Larson. You got to go see these guys, and she was like, yeah, but my mom told me that she had this attorney who did a really good job on her divorce and also did a will for her, and is a really good attorney. So I figured he could handle this case. And it's like
not how
he
it
was
is.
a disaster in the personal injury world. Probably great at the other things he was doing, but
sure,
you just there's enough traps and pitfalls and landmines out there that you
it's
really
it's kind of like hiring a Olympic swimmer to be your quarterback.
Sure, yeah.
That's the analogy that just came. I'm like, wait, yeah, they're all athletes, but you don't want your offensive center to be swimming the 300, 400 meters in the Olympics, right? So there's expertise in everything, and I think it's important for the people to recognize that when you have this type of need, find this type of and ask a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
Ask questions of your attorney, ask questions of your doctors, it's because humanity matters. What would you say is some of the most rewarding things you've kind of gained from this profession and interacting with the public?
For me, it goes back to the difference that we're able to make for people when it's, I know the game. I know what a personal injury case looks like from beginning to end. But most of the time, when someone gets in a crash or something like that, it's either their first time, or hopefully not much more than their second or third. You get some people that have really bad luck that have been through it a bunch of times.
Again, we're knocking on wood here, folks. Yeah.
But it's somebody who are thrown into this situation, and it's stressful to them, and it takes over their life in some fashion for a while, and being able to step in and do a good job for them, and fight that battle for them, and make sure the insurance company treats you the way that you should be treated, and that your case goes for a value of what it should go for.
Sure.
And being able to it's not even necessarily about the money. It is about the money, but at the end of the day, for me, it's like, this person, I made a big difference for this person, and they felt the help that I was able to give them, and that's really
I mean, I talk about like squeezing the juice out of an orange, right? Like at the end of the day, it's like we're going to squeeze juice out of this orange, and we're going to use that. You're going to use that juice. Oftentimes it's monetary, it's money, but that's going to benefit your life. And so I feel like commerce is driven by recognizing humanity for the value that they are, and also having people like, hey, we're here to be excellent with you. And I love that that's what you guys do, because that's what we instill in our class. Like, no, we're excellent. Doesn't mean we're excellent, but doesn't mean we're not going to make mistakes. But yet we're gonna squeeze this mechanism, and we're gonna produce the greatest orange juice that there ever was. And that is going to assist everybody in their life, and we're going to build this thing, and we're going to have vision, and that's what's fun. After all of these years for us, I think, and I know that's what your dad's doing. And what you guys do over there, and so there's everything's, it's all good news, and
sure.
I love that you guys see the big picture and are assisting people that the traditional healthcare model that doesn't really fit this paradigm.
That was one thing, again, not a commercial for concussion pros, but not the first time, but among the first times we interacted professionally was a number of years ago, when you guys were just kind of getting off the ground in this format of what you do. You invited our office down and gave us a demonstration at your Murray location. And, we went in there, and you showed us the different testing, and you let us try out some of the testing and things like that. And we were really impressed by, the investment that you guys made to have the right equipment, to have the right training, to have the right, ability to diagnose and treat concussions. But also I walked away from there feeling the passion and feeling the enthusiasm that you had for this particular thing.
I appreciate that.
That's something that I remember all these years later. It was like, those guys were really, and one of the girls that was working for us at the time, her daughter ended up having a concussion.
That's right. I remember that.
And she was so impressed by it. She sent you guys, because it was so, and she had a fantastic result and made a great recovery.
I appreciate that. That's very kind of you.
She's off living life, going to college and having a great life now. So
there's so much good that we can do. And in any given, I feel like the intention is the driving force always. And I had years ago in college, I had a professor talk to us about this, and he used a little bit different analogy. But if the money gets in front of the intention, you will have neither.
Yeah.
Meaning you will have no clear intention, and you will have no money.
Yeah.
But if the clear intention is always the leading force, the juice, the orange juice, will always follow, and there's vision there, and there's possibilities there, and there's creativity there. And that's, for as ups and downs that we all experience, whether it's in business or in relationships or life in general, it's like, okay, if I feel like if I, talking about myself, can wake up every day and have a clear intention. I don't know what it's going to look like today. I didn't know how this conversation would go, but I was open to having it, and I actually feel like it's been excellent. I love it. I could do this all day, and it's like, but if I had an agenda, I'm like, that's boring. I don't want an agenda. That's the last thing I want to have.
Yeah, that was when we first started talking about doing this. I was, they're like, well, sure, just tell me what you want to talk about, and I got very little back in response to that. I'm like, okay, so this is going to be just a free flow, just wherever it goes, it's going to go, and that's cool. And
it's like, but that's how I kind of see life anymore. I'm like, I'm just going to have clear intention today, and I'll just I go here frequently. I'm going to allow God to fill in the empty space, because I don't know what it's going to look like. I don't know what's going to happen today.
Yeah.
I mean, generally it'll go really smooth, and I'll go to bed tonight, but maybe I won't. Maybe this will be the end, which okay, that's good too, right? But I've only learned this because I used to be so bogged down in the minutia of my life, and I know I'm getting a little bit off, but to me it's the same topic.
Sure.
What am I creating today? And if my intention is our primary purpose, it's on the wall in here, our primary purpose is to provide our patients with quality health care and personal attention, listening to our patients and treating them with dignity, compassion, and courtesy. Our patients come first. That applies to the staff, that applies to myself, that applies to how I show up with my wife and my children and it's like, well, I just want to have this conversation today, Adam, and just do this, because there's tremendous value in hearing your voice, learning about who you are, what you do, and we'll just see what happens after that. And to honestly have people start to see the uniqueness that you bring to this industry, to this space, to the world, even possibly beyond that. And we talk about Bruce Davis, and it's like, man, he had such a, like, in my early, and we talked about this earlier in the show, but because we have that mutual connection, even your pops, like, man, just good guys doing business, changing the world, doing their thing. They had ups and downs like crazy, like everybody else, but the impression, it's like, man, your dad back when he was doing his thing, and when I was first in practice, I'm like, he's got it figured out, You know what I mean? And so it's like, that's good stuff.
Yeah. Well, it goes along with what you're saying, having that purpose, having that, the thing that you're passionate about. You've got to have that. That's the thing that keeps you going. That's the thing. I mean, my dad's 68, almost 69 years old, and he's still chomping at the bit. He loves it.
Love it. Yeah.
And Bruce, right up until the day he passed, he just very, very passionate about doing this, and that's the thing that gets you going. That's the thing that gets you up in the morning.
Yeah.
That's the thing that keeps you inspired and motivated.
Amen. I agree.
There's definitely something to whatever you're doing do it with purpose, do it with passion. Don't just be going through the motions. Don't just be,
And that's what people will remember about you.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So.
That's what Bruce taught me.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's good stuff. Well, hey, Adam, thanks for coming on the
Awesome.
show today.
Appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate you guys tuning into the Two Thumbs Up podcast. Adam Larson Injury Law over here, offices in South Jordan.
South Jordan, yep.
Super appreciate you, man, and we'll do this again.
Yeah, it's been fun.
Thank you, Joy, for creating our new Concussion Pros Two Thumbs Up podcast mugs here. Adam's got one now. He can share with all his friends. So anyway, love you guys. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later.